Greets peeps and welcome back. I've been busy for the last couple of months, so I haven't been doing any streaming or recording, but I've been having a lot of conversations on the Facebook group with people who are new to the EU4 group of to the EU group of games, EU4 being the latest incarnation, and wanting just a general guide. Now, the tutorial in this game is great, so we're going to play it. I'm going to go through and explain some other stuff with it that it may miss. I haven't played this tutorial for... whoa, I've no idea how long. Very basics of the game, how to control the camera and game speed, mouse wheel, and plus and minus. We can ignore that. Basic controls, basic gameplay. Unit control, I see what's going on. This is a subset of those. Unit control and the basics of battles and sieges. Yeah, let's have a look at... In fact, let's do everything, shall we? Let's just see what the game has to say about this. I do highly recommend playing this. In fact, we probably could have gone straight to their advanced tutorial. Is funny because this information here will teach you about 0.05% of what you need to know. If I'm generous, that's pretty. You can minimize this interface at any time. Yeah, great. Anytime you can unpause by pressing the spacebar. That's not true. If you're playing multiplayer, spacebar won't pause the game, but it is true now. Oh, look at all this time we're wasting. Right, you can pause it. Yep, that's fine. Use your mouse pointer to move the camera around. Yep, side of the map. Or use arrow keys if you're, I don't know, weird. Or, and you can use the... oh, hang on. Hold down the mouse scroll wheel and move it. Can you? Yeah, alright, cool. Much easier to do that, I find. If you click the minimap, yes, that's true. If I click over there, we can see over there. Click down there, I can see over there. Hoorah! Move the camera side by side. Yep, we won. We got the objective, guys. Zoom the map. Oh, yeah, okay. As opposed to mouse wheel. Mouse wheel is much easier, I find. Although, actually, once you go past a certain point, you have to do like 20 mouse wheels to get right out. Which is probably a lot quicker that way. Oh wow, look at that. Much easier. I am learning things. This is good. Alright. You can continue. To continue, you must zoom in as close as you can. Oh, there we go. That wasn't as close as we can. Now we are as close as we can be. That's the most we can get. I believe these are standard unit things. I may have bought some unit packs over the years, I can't remember. Oh, I've got everything turned off, so it should all be default. I think I've turned everything off. The English do look a wee bit different, don't they? What do the French look like? Where's the French army? Oh yeah, no, they look the same. Just the Irish don't bother wearing helmets. Oh, some of the Irish don't wear... oh, they've got fancy hats by the looks. He's got a helmet. He's got a helmet. I wonder what the difference is. Who knows? What is this thing saying? Let us see if you understand how to use the camera. Try to find a certain province by moving the camera and zooming in or out. Follow the arrow until you find the province. Which is the one? Oh yeah, it's Aberdeen. When you find the province, the arrow will snap and point down towards it. Yes, it will. Do we want to click on the province? We do. Oh, okay. Now controlling armies and fleets. Yep, sounds good to me. Rebels have taken over the province of Pale. You must defeat them. Select the army station in London by clicking it. We can click in it, or what I always do select that area, selected the army, right click on the province that it wants to go to. Yep. We first need to go to Gwynedd. Now, this is one thing that is annoying about the game, but kind of useful as well. The army will travel a path that will give it the least attrition. Attrition is damage taken from walking over provinces with not enough support for the sized army that it is. This army is 27, so when we walk on Oxford, we'll be going into a province with only supply limit for 18, there for 20, there for 15, there for 28, and there for 19. If we go there, because we're in a mild winter, the supply capacity is lower than it would ordinarily be. 26th, 7th of Feb. Okay, so that means we're going to end the month there. The month will tick over while we're on that square, because you can see we arrive there on the 26th. We don't get there until the 7th, so the month will be the attrition calculation will take place there, so we'll be fine because there's 28 supply there. What can happen regularly though is that because the computer tries to take, because the automatic routing tries to take account of attrition rather than speed, there may be quicker ways of getting to a province. What I'm doing is holding down shift to tell the places that I want to go. No, that's still the 7th. Alright, so that's fine. In some situations it can be important to just get the hell there. You may be defending a fort, you may be trying to catch an enemy army on good terrain where you want to fight them. So do keep an eye out for that. Your pathing may not necessarily be ideal for what you want. It'll try to save you as much manpower as possible. Sometimes you'd rather lose 20, 30, 50, 100, 1,000 men than miss an opportunity to get to a place quickly. The same can be true for wanting to get to a place before the end of the month. No, it should calculate that out fine. Alrighty, so we've talked about the movement and about trying to get to places quickly, about holding down shift to add places that you want an army to go. It will try and auto route between these places, so you might get some interesting paths sometimes, but holding down shift and tagging down the places that you want to go will make sure your route there the way that you want them to move. Move your army to Gwynedd. Remember to unpause the game. Shift. Okay, this is going far too slowly for me, given that I'm not at all interested in this information. What you will see is you heard the money jingle then, and there was a slight pause. We'll actually slow this down. What we'll see when we get here is this little skull here. Because we're an army on a province that's too small to support us, we are taking attrition. We are taking 0.8% attrition per month, which means that it's too hard to work out. .08%. Oh god, we're still ticking through the months. Whoops. So we had taken attrition then. But it's reinforcing more than it takes. Oh, the tutorial's giving us massive amounts of resupply. But .07 now. Because we're no longer in winter, there's now okay, because we're in tutorial, I can't click on the freaking tile apparently. Right, you need to transport your army to Pale by boat. Attach the transport button in the load army. Yep, you can do that. And now to transport them, select the fleet and move it to the Irish Sea province. Alright, that's a way. Oh god, it's still, I keep forgetting to pause it. That's a way to move your army. But what it's going to do here is it's not going to necessarily move the type of troops that you want. It's going to randomly select them. So let's see what it randomly selected. 11, 5. Oh, that's actually a reasonable army composition. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. But you may only want to move your men, or you may only want to move your cavalry. So in that case you do some shuffling about using the Create New Unit tab, or the Split in Half tab, or sorry, buttons. That one there allows you to set exactly what type of army that you want. Split in half, oops, split in half splits the army as close to down the middle as it can. Oh, and that merges the selected units, obviously. Let's see what happens here. Okay, we've moved there. Now, we're going to do what it says. To disembark your troops, have the fleet selected, select the transported troops, and move them. It may tell us, but we'll see what happens. This is a terrible idea. Don't do this. We're now fighting. When the battle is over, you'll have to besiege the province. Yep. Because that province has got those those stripy lines on it. Shush. Because the province has those stripy lines on it, you can tell that the rebels have taken it over. And that means we need to unsiege the province. It'll take about a month, depending on your siege skill. But what I want, what is probably, and what should be mentioned here, maybe it's mentioned later in the tutorial. Gosh, that's loud. Mentioned later in the tutorial areas, is that attacking an enemy off ships gives you a massive negative modifier. We're landing from ships, we get -2 to our dice rolls. So if this were a closer fought battle, if there was, say, 25,000 rebels here, we could... Oh, no, that's not true. There's other things going on. If there were 50,000 rebels here, we might lose this fight, but as it stands, we're fine. So let's let it finish out. The battle window will appear whenever you have an army, when you have selected an army that is engaged in battle, yes. So there's lots of things in here which we'll explain at some point if the tutorial doesn't. I don't imagine it will. You can see the numbers ticking off there for each day. And you can see that we've taken some casualties. There we go. If we take that total, we're missing 807 troops. Yeah, I think that's right. So let's unpause, let this siege happen. Oh, you can't select it to see it, but you can see that little bar there is increasing up to 100. And boop, we've got it back. Victory! You have defeated the rebels and captured Pale. You have completed Chapter 2 of the tutorial. We are pretty damn good. Alright, now talking about production, recruiting regiments, building ships, and constructing buildings. Let's click on London. Okay, this is really aggravating me. This I don't know, terrain view, or whatever the hell it's meant to be called, is the shittest. Oh, they've got rid of all my shortcuts. Okay, terrain view sucks all of the balls. It is functionally useless because even when you have as much terrain detail as you can have turned on, you still can't tell which provinces have rivers going between them. Rivers are important because, like we saw with the battle back there was a -2 penalty for landing ships. If you're attacking across a river, you'll get a -1 penalty for attacking across a river. That's the biggest use for this map mode there is, and it's still not good enough because it doesn't always tell you where there's a river. I think it's fairly good in England. Okay, no, there's a river between there, which you wouldn't immediately guess there's a river between those two. There's that. So maybe there is, but yeah. There's much worse examples in the game. So never trust what it looks like on the map. Always trust what it says in that corner. Okay, so this one has got rivers between 4 provinces. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is no river between there and there as far as I can tell. But apparently the game thinks there is. So if you were to be looking at this map and you had an army in Carmarthen and you decided to attack Montgomery, you would get a nasty surprise when you got there. A nasty -1 penalty to your attack rolls, to your combat rolls. Each province is different and has different economic and military value, depending on such things as tax, trade goods. Provinces where all unit production takes place, you can recruit regiments, build ships, and hire mercenaries. That's true, you can. Oh, is that all it wanted me to tell me? Yep, very good. Armies consist of regiments that can be 3 different types: infantry, cavalry, artillery. Yep. At the moment we can only build infantry and cavalry. Is that what it's saying? Yep. Cannons, artillery are normally there, but you don't get cannons until Tech 7, and the most advanced places in the world start at Tech. I have to check this actually. I rarely play these ones. At Tech 4, right. So we're another 3 techs before we'd get any cannons. I think I'm right at Tech 7. Maybe it's Tech 8. Can't remember. Regardless, several, sort of 100, maybe 80 years off. No. Like 50. God, I can't remember. Some years off. A couple of decades away. In the Recruitment Regiment window, you'll see a list of all units available. Recruiting a regiment will cost you 1,000 manpower in addition to ducats. So manpower is that pool up there, and ducats is that pool up there. Manpower is an important resource that regenerates over time. It does, but you can see that it doesn't regenerate much. If we were to build 10 units, it would take us 25 40 months? No, that seems too low. 400 months. Come on, math. 22, 25 into 1,000, so 1 every 4 months. 80 months? Roughly? That seems... Oh, okay. I played this game... I think this is with... I think this game is being played at a lower difficulty level, so your manpower recovery is much faster. So, yeah, that's fine. God, build it. I would expect that to be much lower and our recovery rate to be much lower at higher levels, including normal. But we'll be playing a campaign after this. Well, there's a tutorial campaign. I'm not sure what difficulty level it's played on, but we'll have a look. It's quite hard to tell. In fact, let's go in here and have a quick check. Where is that? No? Okay. Huh. Alright, I think this is being played on normal. So if you're playing on normal, which is what I'd recommend for people just starting, if not easy, I think I started on easy, you get quite good manpower recovery rates. Because 225, that's 100 months, 140 months, and you'd have your full manpower from 0. That's not bad. That's 12 years, 13 years, and you've got all your manpower back. That's pretty impressive. Manpower is a resource that, as it says, is a very important resource that you don't want to be without. Without sufficient manpower, you cannot train newer armies or reinforce existing ones. Absolutely correct. See manpower in the top left corner. You're not wrong, game. Recruit any regiment in London to continue. Let's recruit a medieval infantry. Actually, let's do 2. You can see that it's queued. We've paid... Oh, I didn't see how much it cost. We paid 25. How much did that first one cost? We paid 10 there, and you'll see it coming out of the money at the top. Boop, and then boop. So we're going to have an infantry and a cavalry unit. The names that they have here denote the... we can see those. They might explain those later. I'll leave that and expand upon their explanation. No. Okay, that told us almost nothing. It said you could build a whole bunch of things there. There are many more things to build here. There's also... Oh, hang on. Maybe it will tell us. Okay, there we go. You can also build ships. Let's cancel that. We don't need him. You can also build... Oh, you can see that there's a build time associated with them. 30 days is 30th of July is 25 days away. Slightly quicker to build infantry than it is, well, quite a bit quicker to build infantry than cavalry, and the same is true of cannon. They take of artillery. They take even longer. But these are normal infantry groups and cavalry groups. They are not mercenaries, who are much quicker to hire. They're also much more expensive to... there we go. They have their recruitment time reduced by 75%. But they're also much more expensive to upkeep and to build. So does it tell us what their upkeep is? Why not? Okay. The cavalry have mercenaries have an upkeep rate of, I'd say triple your base unit upkeep. It's very hard to tell. Oh, hang on. Were there any infantry? Were there any? Oh god. Okay, it's locked me down. The rule of thumb is, though, that they're much more expensive to hire and much more expensive to upkeep. So bear that in mind. The huge advantage to mercenaries is that where you'll see the infantry reduced that manpower total. Sorry, not the infantry. The troops built in the standard troop page, in the recruit area, reduced our manpower. Let's have a look here. Boop, boop. No effect on our manpower. What does happen instead is that you have to pay a proportion of their purchase cost to what would you call it, to resupply them with men, to hire more mercenaries to fill out their regiments. So it's a very expensive enterprise running mercenaries, but hugely useful if you've got lots of money, as this country has, and you're worried about your manpower going down. It's invaluable to use mercenaries. There's other things to take into account as you add later DLCs, but for the moment, just bear that in mind. Mercs cost a lot more, but don't use up your manpower, and will cost you each month when you have to resupply them. It will cost you even more to resupply when you don't have them. There's also a reinforcing cost for your own armies. You can see that our armies that took damage over here, rather than just costing their standard cost up the top, that's 7.94 to supply them, keep them at full morale. There's a reinforcement, a recruitment cost, I guess you'd say, that happens while they're reinforcing. So bear that in mind and be prepared for that mercenary cost to be insane if they need to get resupplied, reinforced. You can build a ship by selecting a coastal province and clicking build button. Let's build over there. That's not coastal. Oh, it's a river mouth, I see. Let's click there. That's coastal. And build a ship button. There are 4 different ship types: big ships, light ships, galleys, and transports. There surely are. So let's click on the build ship option. Here we go. Big ships are warships that excel in combat. That's quite true. Light ships are faster ships that are mainly used to protect your trade, but also useful for exploration. Yep, kind of true. Galleys are cheaper warships that should be used in inland seas. That's quite right. Now, the inland seas in the game are fairly limited. As far as I'm aware, the Mediterranean, the Balkan, and the coast of China are the only coastal seas. The only inland seas. Does that count as inland? Yes, okay, so the Gulf of Suarez as well. And I would suggest the Gulf on the other side, I forget what its name is, would be the same. So they're fairly limited. Well, I mean, I play a lot of games around Europe, so I tend to use galleys a fair amount. You'll need them in many situations. And playing up in here, they're also quite useful. Well, quite to very useful, depending on how you're playing and what you're doing. But galleys will wreck face. And what you can see is that their cost is a fraction of the cost of the heavy ships. So they are always, and their manpower cost is actually far lower as well. I always thought galleys had a much higher manpower ratio. Interesting. Galleys are cheaper warships that use the inland seas, that's right. But they're crap once they're out here. I don't think they get a penalty, but without their bonus, they're not very strong at all. How ship combat works is a weird thing anyway, so we won't go into that. But if you're out here and you're tempted, don't. Just build more barks, build more light or heavy ships. And cogs are our transport ships, which we saw over here before. What did we have here? So in this fleet we've got 5 heavies, 8 light ships, 0 galleys, and 16 transports. Lastly, there are also transports. Yep, you're not wrong. I'll build any ship in London to continue. Let's build a bark. Buildings can be constructed. Oh, I see what it was pointing to. Buildings can be constructed from that thing. Yep, they can. So that little tab there opens out the buildings tab. This shows us any buildings that we have, and clicking on one of these empty ones will allow us to select from a group of buildings to build. Construct any building in London. Let's construct, well, a marketplace. The reason I'd say marketplace is because London has a massive trade power when compared to other places. 2.8, 4.1, and that's actually a good trade place, and it's still only got 21. London has got 42. God damn, that's a lot of trade. Let's click there, and we'll spend 100 ducats and take a year to build a marketplace, which will increase our trade power. Won't go into that just yet. Okay, and we can see that ticking up in a separate queue to this side. The military side, regardless of what you're building, whether it's infantry or ships, will always go one after the other. So if we tried to add, after having set up to build this bark, if we set up to build an infantry, it's going to queue behind. There are two different queues. Oh, exactly as it's explained. You can also queue buildings. Can you? No, you can't. The building queue allows you to either construct a... You can't queue buildings. You have to wait for the stupid things. Funny. Each of the two queues can do one thing simultaneously. Yes, so as I said, only one thing can happen at a time. For reasons that confuse me, you can stack things on this side but not on that side. This makes me think that at some point you could. Or... Oh, that's disabled. Yeah. No, I think they must have changed out how it works. As an empire grows, it becomes more difficult to manage. The production interface will help you with constructing the larger amount of buildings or training troops. Oh yeah. Okay. So that's up now. Click land units from the left, from the list on the left. Yep. So where we clicked there and did it one or two dudes, perhaps we want to dump a whole army. We've got the French are coming over the border, and we need to assemble an army in 6 days. We're going to, 7 days in the case of that place. Let's get rid of that. You're taking too long, mate. We need this army in 6 days. So we're now going to get an army pop out of here. It cost us a lot of money. 30 ducats each, 150 ducats. Ow. Recruit 5 regiments to continue. Alright, we've got our troops together. That concludes chapter 3. Oh god, and I can't even move these guys. But there is another way of constructing armies quicker. This is what I will usually use, because it groups your armies for you, and that's quite important. Oh. Maybe that was DLC that enabled that. Yeah, it must be. Or maybe it's... We'll have a look. Maybe we can do it later on in the... I'll try and show you later on in the tutorial. Chapter 3 production is done. Good. Let's learn about some WoW. Revolt supporters. Our agents report that revolt was triggered, was instigated by support from Leinster. We should not let this go unpunished. We have a claim on Laughlin of Leyen. England gains conquest casus belli on Leinster. Now, there's... Oh god, I don't know how to say it. Leyen? Leyen? No idea how you'd say that, unfortunately, folks. So, what we can see... when you declare war on a target, you want to have a casus belli on them. When you declare war on a target, you want to have a casus belli on them. Oh, that is true. We could declare on them without a casus belli. Casus belli is the Latin for case for war. So we've got a case for war against these guys, and that we got that core on there that popped up from the event that happened before. That means that we can click diplomacy and declare war. So we can click diplomacy, declare war. That's not right. We haven't got the Conquest Casus Belli yet because it hasn't been 1 day. But let's wait for 1 day and do that again. What have I clicked? What? Hang on, what the hell? I've got a core there, matey. I want to declare on you, please. Okay. It appears that this might be wiggity whack. We can't fabricate a claim on them because no neighbouring. It's our core, mate. Yeah, okay. So I think it's bugged out here. Typically, if we... Hang on, can we do this with anyone else? Or let's have a look at that. Oh god. I hope this isn't broken my buttons permanently. That's the one I want. That's the only person we've got a claim on. By changing it to the diplomacy window, I can see that the striped lines mean I have a claim. Oh, here we go. So what about the Frenchies? If I were to declare on the Frenchies, do I have a claim? Yeah. I've got Reconquest on Armagnac. Because they've got, as those other clowns do, they've got one of our cores. They've got control of a place that we believe is rightfully ours. However, for some reason this one's messed up. What you'll see is that with no Casus Belli, I'm going to take stability hit, which is bad. We'll come back to that later. We're going to take war exhaustion stab, which is bad, and I'll come back to it later. And 39 aggressive expansion will greatly upset those with an interest in Leinster. By -20 is the base. So yeah, it's going to be a unpleasant one because the game's glitched out, but let's just do it. Yep, this is wrong. We have a claim there. We should be able to choose that Reconquest Casus Belli from the list here. In fact, let's wait till the end of the month. Let's see if for some reason no Casus Belli means the end of the month is when a CB kicks in. There we go. Okay. So for some reason it took to the end of the month for that to calculate. I haven't seen that particular event trigger a Casus Belli before, so maybe that is always how it works. I genuinely don't know. But waiting for the end of the month, we can now declare on them without taking without losing stability or gaining war exhaustion, and we're not going to be taking aggressive expansion with other people either. We're reconquesting this, which has -25 aggressive expansion, 100 prestige, and -75% cost for taking back our core. That's a really good Casus Belli. Reconquest is one of the best Casus Belli. 75% cost. Yeah, so probably the second best Casus Belli you can get in the entire game. Oh, no. Like the fourth best. But at this part of the game, this early on, Reconquest is an amazing Casus Belli. You'll always want to use this if you can somehow wrangle it. Or if you're a nation that starts with someone else's, where someone else owns your cause. Like us as England, we can claim Armagnac back from France using this Casus Belli, and for taking that back we'll get hardly any aggressive expansion. We'll only get 25% of it. We'll come to aggressive expansion later on. But let's now declare war on Leinster. Move your troops. That was wrong. Move your troops into the Leinster province to engage their army. You must also besiege and occupy their province if you want to continue, before you can continue. That's right. So as we had with the rebels here before, we're going to need to sit on there for a while to be able to take their territory. If this were a real game, I might... No, I wouldn't. These numbers are overwhelming. We'll crush these. There's a couple of things I'd do here. I'd want to check that we're not crossing a river. And we are. So we're going to get a -1 crossing penalty here, coupled by a -1 penalty for attacking into woods. So we're going to be at -2 here again, but because their army is so much smaller than ours, we should win handily. Let's see what happens when we hit. Right, wow. Okay, so as soon as we hit, I wanted to catch it before the first tick had gone, but I think one tick did make it through. We saw some numbers fly off them, meaning that the combat damage had been calculated. What we can see here is that their morale is already crumbled. So their morale is at 2.8, ours is at 6.0. That means they're far more likely to flee from this battle than we are. We've got full morale, we won't flee. Once your morale gets down to, well, once that's completely red, that bar's completely red, then your troops are either going to get routed and disappear, which we call stack wiped, or they're going to run away to another tile. They're going to flee through flee through territory they control to territory they control that doesn't have any armies dropped on it, or flee to allied, if they have any allies. No, they don't, because we would have seen that. Or flee to allied territory. As it is, they're going to get stack wiped, I think. Let's let that run and see what happens. Yep. So they disappeared entirely rather than fleeing. And what's happening now is that we're sieging. The sieging of this province is different because they have a level 1 capital city fort here. We need to siege down the fortifications. Now this will take usually a couple of months. Oh. Okay. Yeah, so the base is 30, but for some reason the defensiveness is negative 90%, which I'm guessing must be something to do with their tutorial. Otherwise, next time I play England, I'm definitely coming straight back for Leinster. So now it's only taking 3 days for phase. Kind of crazy. But what happens in the siege window, and it may explain this later on, but I doubt it. Yeah, this is a good chance. It likely won't show it later on, so let's explain it here. Nope. I'm going to let it run because we'll explain it when we're playing the campaign proper. There's a little bit too much here to explain for the moment. So we'll race through the siege phases, and we'll see the fort here get gradually more haggard, the defenders' morale get gradually lower, and eventually they'll give up. Hooray! They gave up. To demand tribute in a peace deal requires you to have a certain amount of war score. The war goal reduces the war score cost of that province, yep, by 50%, yes. Having a claim on a province reduces the cost of diplomatic power by 50%. Right. So, lots of peace deals will cost you diplomacy. At the moment that doesn't. If we were to make them a vassal, we would have to pay 18 diplomacy points of our diplo power. We don't want that though. We've already got a core on them, so we are going to eat these suckers. Super peace. I'm not sure what I'm meant to do here. I hope I don't break the tutorial. Click them. Super peace. Oh, son of peace treaty of any kind. Okay, cool. Well, we'll eat you, because you've got our land. So what I'm doing here is I'm selecting that, which will make lion. Oh, I have no idea how Scottish would say it. Sorry, Irish would say it. So I'm going to say lagin. I think maybe, but then God, they don't pronounce anything. No, they have their own damn language with their own crazy description, their own crazy pronunciations. So I'm going to say lagin and hope that I'm right. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take their one and only province, and I'm going to take all of their money, 15 ducats. So we're going to take some inflation. With our Reconquest, we take hardly any aggressive expansion. That's great. We'll go into aggressive expansion later. It's very hard to explain, as I've found out trying to explain it recently to mates via Facebook. And we're going to gain some prestige. They're going to lose some prestige, and it will cost us 0 diplo, because this was the war goal that we set. We said we wanted to reconquest this. There's no diplomacy cost for it. As I said before, if we were to make them a vassal, then there'd be diplomacy cost, and the war score here. Also, we'll probably go into that later on. We'll go into that later on. So it's going to cost us 7% of the war score, and then, oh wow, 25% to get 15. Sorry, 25% of the war score to get 15 ducats. But that's cool. We want it. Alright, when a war ends. Your two nations will have a truce unless you annex them, because then they no longer exist. You can see which countries have a truce with, which countries you have a truce with, and when they expire by hovering the mouse over Truce Alert. We don't have a truce alert because we murdered them. Typically, you'd see truce alerts in here or up here. But because we ate Leinster, we don't. Yeah. Oh, now it's changed its name to Leinster. Cool. Because we ate Leinster, we don't see it again. Attacking someone you have a truce with will incur a severe penalty to stability, and it's not recommended. Yeah, truce breaking is not a good idea. You'll end up in all sorts of trouble. Exit to go back to the tutorial menu, play the advanced game mechanics part to find out more. Cool, okay, well that was the basic tutorial. We'll wrap this one up here because it's likely going to take half an hour to load, as it did on the way in. So hopefully that made sense. If you've got any questions, put them below. I think I've explained most of the stuff that I expect they've forgotten about. The river crossings, the defensive penalties for different terrains, those we've brushed across. That's good enough for now. Yeah, we'll wrap this one up here. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Hopefully this helped explain some of the things that were going on. We're going to explain further on in the advanced tutorial, and then I'm going to fill in any gaps that are left as far as I can see them in the third part of the tutorial series, where we're going to play as, I think, Castile, maybe Spain. Who knows? Regardless, I'll see you there. Thanks so much, and catch you soon.